Hey everyone, happy Friday. I am really excited to be back with our video update. I hope you're enjoying these. If not, I have been trying to, everything that we say in the video, also write in the training update, but just remember that sometimes there's additional things in the text of the update in the training portion of Humanity. So you have to listen and you have to read. Gonna jump right in because we have several updates since we missed last week. Top of my mind is we have hired 2 new veterinarians, and they will be starting in mid-July. Their names are Dr. Gordy Labe and Dr. Ryan Andrews. So we'll be excited to welcome them, and what we're doing right now is we're really preparing for them by creating a new doctor's schedule. And that's going to offer just optimal coverage for us and be able to enable us to work 24 hours a day without having to have specified on-call portions or having our overnight team work these extra long shifts that they're doing now. So we're going to be able to make a more consistent routine out of that, and I know everybody's really looking forward to that part. Also, we, in preparation for the new doctors, will be hiring new team members, and that's going to look like primarily hiring bathers and nurses just to help to support the extra growth that's going to bring in. And we're doing that now so that we can have those people go through and graduate Sprout School, and then also start working before they're actually demanded by these doctors who are coming in and will be ready to hit the ground running. This week we have some new team members who started with us, so I want to give a special welcome to Nicole, Brittany, Ashlyn, Christine, and Lisa. Those team members have either started this week or have been to Sprout School, and or will be starting next week. So make sure that you welcome any new faces, as we always do. We're so great at that, and we want to keep that up. While we're settling these new team members and any other future team members in, we want to make sure that everybody understands that new schedules can be tough, and starting team members before we have veterinarians for them to work with just kind of messes up things a little bit. Also, adding to that chaos, we've got summer vacations going on, so just please be patient with your scheduler. Make sure you communicate your needs thoroughly to them, and we're hoping that things would level out and get to be our new normal probably by that 2nd or 3rd week of July. So be patient in the meantime. We're also working, as we had talked about at our last town hall meeting, on our choice-based schedule, and that's something that Danielle Petrie and I are really working on together, which is going to be allowing team members to choose their schedule based on things that we've already made. So we'll be able to give out more information probably that 1st or 2nd week in July. We'll have another town hall meeting, and we'll be able to give you all the right information on that. My point in sharing this is to let you know that hope is on the way. There's a light at the end of the tunnel with the weird scheduling that we're doing right now, and then also just to ask for your continued patience if you have schedule changes or preferences that we haven't been able to get to let you know that it's just a little bit more time until we can get to entertaining those. But go ahead and submit those requests now so that hopefully we can get those set up for you. Also, in light of our hiring needs, I wanted to share with everybody that we are planning a group interview or like a job fair. That's going to be next week on Wednesday. So what's happening now is Laura's going through a lot of applicants that we've had, probably today, and then on Monday and Tuesday as well. And we're inviting a lot of people in at once so that we can get ahead of our mass hiring need. Between needs here at LVCC and then also in New Iberia at Rayo Animal Hospital, we are looking to hire up to 10 people right now. Again, primarily bathers and nurses who would be willing to work those overnight type shifts from maybe 6 p.m. until 8 a.m. or some kind of split between the two. So that's primarily what we're looking for. That's how we're going to handle those, and then Alex will be ready to receive those people and get them graduating Sprout School and then on the floor training with us. So it's going to look like a lot of people coming in at once, again, all in effort to even out our scheduling needs and prepare for our veterinarians that we're adding to our team. If you have questions or suggestions for us, we'd love to hear them. So just make sure that you know that your voice is always ready to be heard. In other news, we've got some important dates for you to mark down. Rachel Young is going to be offering a laser therapy CE. She's got 2 dates in mind for that. June 7th from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. and June 12th from 12 to 1 p.m. And I wanted to remind you, I mentioned this a few weeks back, and I'll continue to remind you until these dates come up. This laser therapy CE is required for all nurses, and it's recommended for all team members. So if you're a nurse, treatment room, procedure, appointment nurse, any level, whether you are currently doing laser therapy or you want to be, or you've never heard of it, if you're a nurse by position, you have to have this training. It's an AHA standard now that you have to have annual training on that to be recertified. So these are your opportunities to do so. And I will have a great prize for you when you do complete that. If you don't complete these, you will be suspended from your position. It's really, really important that you do that. So if you can't make either of those dates, you need to make special arrangement for us so we can get those, get that information to you. But just not attending or not getting certified is not an option for you. So you got to figure that out. Again, those dates, June 7th from 5 to 6 and June 12th from 12 to 1. And I'll put that information in the Slack channel. And don't worry, I'm going to remind you. Very, very important. The next thing that I wanted to share about, kind of some sad news, that Louisiana Veterinary Specialists, our local veterinary specialty center, is closing their doors mid-June. I think the exact date is June 18th. They will officially be closed at that point. We refer a lot of surgeries and dermatology cases there, and we use that facility for a few other things as well, like echoes with Dr. Strickland and things like that. So we're going to be making some changes to the way that we handle referrals. Not to say that we won't refer to those veterinarians, but we won't be able to refer to those veterinarians in Broussard. They're taking other positions throughout the state. And so we're going to be changing the way that we refer, and that'll be handled on a case-by-case basis, and it'll be at the discretion of our doctors to choose where they're going to refer each patient based on their individual needs. Likely 3 top places or center names that you're going to need to remember. Baton Rouge Veterinary Specialists, obviously that's in Baton Rouge. That's the one that's attached to Sherwood South. We'll primarily probably be sending surgeries there, and then we'll send a lot to Southern Eye Care that's located in Mandeville, and then also LSU. And again, you can't ever make a determination to a client yourself on where their case may be referred out to. You just need to maybe be aware of where these places are, and it'll be at the discretion of the doctor to choose where they send some types of cases or not. And as we start doing that and we get more information on how this will work for us, we'll continue to share updates to you here. That's just what to expect. Again, LVS is still open until that mid-June date. So until then, you don't have to share any different information with clients. You don't have to be aware of anything differently. We'll continue to refer to LVS up until the time that they close. Again, as always, that's been at the discretion of the doctor. Okay, so moving on to some other things. We had a great week this week, but it became apparent that we've got some standards that we're deviating from or slipping off of a little bit, and I wanted to get us back on track, and one of the ways that we do that is to talk about it, just to remind everybody and put these things in the forefront. So one of the things is clients and medications going home. Clients expect us to review medications and food with them every time. So refills, you can offer to go over it with them, and if they say, no, I've got it, you don't have to go any further. But that one client who really needed that reviewed or needed us to confirm the dose with them, that's how we exchange information with people, is going over that. So I mentioned in the last update that we did 2 weeks ago that we had a client who we had just been continuously refilling their medication, and what they were doing, what they were giving their pet, was drastically different from what we had recorded on the label. That kind of thing could have been resolved if we reviewed what was on the label with them. at each refill when we were checking them out, when they were picking up their medication at the front desk. Another great thing that comes from doing that is sometimes people don't understand the medication that they're giving, or we could stop them from giving it incorrectly. And then finally, it's a great way to kind of inventory what they're taking home and make sure that they're leaving with everything that they expected to be leaving with. We had a few slip ups this week where a client maybe requested 3 items, but only 2 were in the bag and they were actually charged for 3. If we had pulled those things out and reviewed it with them, we would have known that we made a mistake and something didn't make it in the bag. So that happened on multiple occasions. Again, the standard, clients expect us to review medications and food every time that they check out. Please do that. Make sure. With the food specifically, you can also offer them a feeding guide. I did miss saying that. Another thing that we could continue to do better at is wearing our walkie-talkies and communicating as a team. The call center, they get a lot of requests and they get a high volume of requests. And those clients don't like to wait on hold, so they want the information delivered to them immediately. Clients really appreciate that we're available 24 hours a day, but they are hungry for us to continue to deliver that small practice feel, as if we only have a handful of people who work here and that are all intimately involved in their pet's care. So how do we do that? We communicate quick and efficiently and thoroughly. And it takes having the right tools to do so. And I feel strongly that we provide you with that. We have side notes, we have walkie-talkies, we have a phone system that allows us to page different areas. But if your teammates are asking for information from you using those modes, you have to respond to give it. And you're responding to support your team member through that. You're responding to give that small practice feel and that thorough care to your coworkers and to the clients. So we have to work in these ways. Danielle worked really hard this week to get an extra walkie-talkie set for the treatment room nurses. We now have 2 treatment room nurses here at all times and a lab nurse, and we expect all 3 of those people throughout the shifts to wear the walkie-talkies and be ready to respond. And if you can't respond or you don't know the right information, not responding is not the right answer. Share, I've got my hands full right now. Can someone else get this? Or I'm not sure. It's going to take me a moment to check with you. A client would rather know that we are trying to find their answer than to wait in silence. And sometimes the customer care team just doesn't know how to respond. So you have to do that. That goes for walkie-talkies and that goes for side notes. To be a good team player means that you actually have to be constantly playing as part of the team. I feel like what's happening right now in the way of side notes especially is that if you see a side note that's not exactly for you, that you're not trying to pick up the ball or you're not trying to find that information and reconnect the team with it. So the call center team a lot of times waits in silence. And that could be for any other team member. So if you see a side note, if you get a page on the walkie-talkie, respond in some kind of way and know that if you spot it, you got it. If you see that note, it's your responsibility to respond. So I know we can do better at that. That is the standard. So let's get back on track with that. And the final thing as far as standards that I really wanted to talk about has been just a growing habit, and that's hanging out in the lab. And this does a couple of poor things. One is everybody's voice carries through our building. We've got hard floors and we've got gaps under our doors, and so sound carries. And when you're in the lab pharmacy area, and you're talking, it doesn't matter what you're talking about, but it can be heard in the exam room. So I like to make sure that we will be limiting conversation in the lab to only work-related things. So if I hear anything in the lab, it should be, can you hand me that printout? What'd you see on the microscope? Let's fill this medication. Dr. Angie, your appointment's waiting for you in room 4. That's the only type of conversation that we should hear. And then we also need to be very aware of silence during euthanasias. If you see the lights dimmed, that means that your voice drops down to a whisper, and that whisper is only an essential communication to start caring for other patients. There's really no negotiation or wiggle room in this area. We have to do this. This is how we've agreed to work. And so I want us to get back to that. In short, reduce your voice to a whisper, Stop hanging out in the lab. There's plenty of other things to do. And when you are whispering or communicating in those areas, just make sure that it's essential to what you need to do to be caring for your client and patient at that time. All right, so moving on to another topic, we have ordered some gowns for use in isolation. I've kind of learned that we have been using disposable gowns instead. Even though we have one point person caring for patients in the isolation area right now, with the amount of patients that we have in there, they're going in almost every hour to care for those patients, and that's great. But if we're using disposable gowns, even if it's only one person and it's only once an hour, that would be 24 gowns that are disposed of every day. That's a little too expensive to maintain, and I think it's really wasteful. The idea is once we get new smock covers, we're going to keep 3 of them in isolation at all times. So if you go in and you use the gown and you don't get anything on it, you just hang it up and leave it in isolation, and then you can walk out of the room. If you do get it dirty while you're cleaning and it needs to be washed, or if it's part of the routine wash, you can wash it with other soiled laundry that comes out of that room. You just wouldn't want to mix it in the washer with those others, or you wouldn't want to leave it sitting in the laundry area. It would want to go straight into the washing machine. So that's why we're going to get a handful of those to keep them rotating. We'll keep clean ones folded underneath the cabinet in the isolation room, and one that's kind of in use can be hanging on the little hanging rack that's in there. But as soon as we get those in, we'll discontinue use of the disposable gowns. Until then, just be responsible and sparing with those, and know that they're expensive and it's really wasteful to use those. The same will go for puppy pads. It'll be important. I understand that we're out of newspaper right now, and so we're using puppy pads, but I really want us to transition back to newspaper because those puppy pads are so expensive and we're disposing of them so rapidly. All those things just really are very wasteful, and they cut into our profit margin, which is the money that we use to give you raises and keep our facility up and all those extra things. So anywhere that we can save and be more economical and more environmentally friendly, that's what we're really after. So just keep those things in mind as you're using those and waiting on a replacement for them. The final thing that I wanted to share is within the next 3 days, we're going to be putting in place some new task lists for each department. With the exception of the resort task lists are going well and are actually the example that we're leading from to bring new task lists into the hospital areas and the call center and customer care areas. So what the resort's been doing for a while now are they have shift-based task lists. So if you start working at this time of day, you work off of this task list. If you start working at that type of day, you work off of a different task list, and it helps to kind of spread things out and everybody knows what they're responsible for. We're bringing that theory into other areas, and we're going to be trying to use a Google sheet that everybody can share and work from to maintain those things. And it's going to be a mix of department related tasks that need to happen at a certain time, whether it's client patient care related or cleaning and facility care related. So we'll get those out as soon as possible, and I'll share in Slack and probably an individualized training for each department on how exactly to work those things. And the final part of that is for new tasks that we're adding, we'll also have SOPs on actually what we're expecting from you in those areas. So again, we'll put those out within the next 3 days when we are ready to launch them, so that you can look and know exactly what's expected from you. All right, guys, this has been a big update today. Lots of information for you to listen to in this video and to read. So make sure you do it. A reasonable timeline for you to finish and click I'm finished on your training would be 3 days. So that would mean by work on Monday, I would expect that you've had time to review this and know that we're implementing those things in that time. Thanks for continuing to do a great job, especially to our resort team for making it through a busy holiday. And it was great. So keep up the good work and be kind to one another.